Well, hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Laura, and on this channel I do book reviews. So today, back up a little bit actually. So in my last video, I mentioned how I wanted to do a video on books 2 and 3 of the Discovery of Witches series. And I also had posted a poll on the community tab here, whether or not to see whether or not y'all wanted me to do just them individually or them together. And looks like y'all actually want to see both books together. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. Um, so Shadow of Night is book 2, and then Book of Life is book 3 of Life the Discovery, which is book series. The I think it was the Black Oracle or the Blackbird Oracle, I think, if I remember that correctly. One of those for book 5, and that's coming out in July. So I pre ordered that, so it should be July 10th when it's released. But I digress. Anyways, um, so yeah, like I'll do a quick synopsis of book 2, and then kind of talk about my thoughts on it, and then I'll do a quick synopsis of book 3, and then talk about my thoughts on that. So, just kind of to give you a little, I guess, precursor of what I planned for this video. So, if you are familiar with the series or even the TV series, because I know that is on AMC Plus, Shudder, and I think Sundance now, if I remember correctly. And so if y'all are interested in the TV series, I highly suggest go watch it, because I think I said it in the previous video that I had seen season 1 of the show and like the first 2 episodes of season 2 before I even started reading the books. And so that was definitely helpful for me to kind of visualize everything. But again, I'm getting distracted, so I do that a lot, in case you haven't noticed that. Anyways, so quick synopsis of book 2, Shadow of Night. It is pretty much it. It literally picks up right where book 1 ends. Is when Diana and Matthew time travel, because Diana is a weaver and a time walker, so she's able to walk between times, and they time walk back to 1590 so that they can essentially be safe from the congregation. Which, if you remember, the congregation is made up of 3 members of each species of daemon, witches, and vampires, and is the governing body of the races. And they have a pretty much a covenant. I don't remember the exact term, but it's pretty much a written agreement that the species won't intermingle. And obviously Diana and Matthew are 2 different species, so the congregation is like, yeah, no, y'all can't do that. So that's one of the reasons why they time walked, so that they could be safe from them then, because of that. And then they are also trying to figure out how to find Ashmole, Ashmole 782, because that book is essentially the manuscript of how what all the creatures believe it to contain, the beginning of life as creatures. And so Diana and Matthew time travel so that they can, for about they plan to only be gone for a few months, but turns out they're gone for much longer than they planned. And Diana, they also time travel so that Diana can learn how to wield her magic, because in the first book we find out that she is spellbound by her parents so that she would not be noticed by Peter Knox, who is super powerful witch, and he was in love with Diana's mother. That we also find that out. So a lot of things are happening, but that's essentially what book 2 is them going back, trying to stay safe. This book does briefly touch kind of closer to like the middle of the book. It trigger warning if this kind of is sensitive topic for you, of child loss. So just as a trigger warning. But book 2, about halfway to 3/4 of the way. Not again, I'm trying not to spoil too much, but the book does deal with a miscarriage, and so I know that can be very sensitive to a lot of people. But I feel like Harkness definitely did it in a way that was sensible, but at the same time, like, was still like allowed them to grieve. But also, I also still feel like she did move on a little too quickly. But anyways, just if you are planning on reading this book, I just want to fair warning that this does deal with a miscarriage. And so, but yeah. So my thoughts. So I gave this book a 4 out of 5 star rating. And to me, like, for a book to get a 5 star, it has to be practically perfect. And to me, this book was almost that. I can't really think of anything like mad. I can't really think of anything that I'm mad about this book for, except for how it ended. I will say that. But then again, book 3, at the beginning of book 3, it resolves itself. But that was one of the main reasons why I gave it a 4, was because of the freaking ending, man. Like, you have to, if you want to know what I'm talking about, read it. And but, oh my, the ending of this book. So, just as a, whatever, side note, someone dies at the end. I won't say who, but somebody dies. And I'm like, why does this person have to die? I don't know. But, I mean, the reason why they die, I understand why, but still, I'm like, like, I was literally, I was so depressed for like 2 days after I finished this book, because, yeah, anyways, but, I loved how Harkness spent time and, I guess, like, just world building, because it's, as a lover of history, like, I understand how hard it can be for writers to be so meticulous and detailed in how they write, and, like, be so, like, in it. And it was like, just, like I just said, I love history, and I'm also a writer, so, like, I get why, or, like, how hard it can be, but just the way that Harkness, like, just how she was able to be so, I guess you can say, present in the history, and trying to stay true to the Elizabethan era of, like, of how London was back then. Like, that can be hard. And so I think that was one of the big things that I loved about this book, was how much she was able to stay true to that time period of, like, just the way she described the dresses and, like, the clothing. Like, yeah, any one person can Google, like, Elizabethan era dresses and, like, get, like, a rundown, but, like, just how meticulous she was, and, like, oh, they had to put this on first and then this, and then they had to use this type of corset, and that just the way that, like, writing in and of itself can be hard. Just the way she went about describing things was amazing. I'm like, I wish I was literally transported to that era. And so I highly suggest this book for really anybody. But like, this is definitely, just in general, this series so far is like, I am so ready for book 5 to come out so that I can then go back and reread the series. It's just that good, because just she transports you to another world, really, because it's just the detail of everything is like, oh my word. But yeah, so that is book 2, Shadow of Night, of the Discovery Witches series. So there's that one. Then for book 3, The Book of Life, this one comes when Matthew and Diana come again, just like book 2, literally picked up where book 1 was left off. This one also literally picks up. This one kind of, I guess you can say, to a degree, kind of backs up into book 2, but from a different, like, from the perspective of those who were in present day, like Diana's aunts, like Yazbo, I think is how you pronounce Matthew's sire, like Matthew's mom, and like all of them that we saw in book 1. This starts out with like kind of catching us up on what they were doing while Matthew and Diana were back in London in 1590 / 1591. And so but that only is about the first chapter or two. Yeah, it was just like the first chapter that it kind of catches us up on what's been going on in modern times. And then starting in chapter 2 is when it shows Diana and Matthew appearing, but from the other point of view, and them coming back and kind of going from there. And then this one is pretty much about them learning about the person dying at the very end of book 2, which I was saying destroyed me literally for 2 days. I didn't want to read anything because I felt so betrayed. But besides the point. So we find out why this person dies, how they die at the beginning of this book, which was the only gripe I had for book 2, because I was like, did I miss something? What's going on? I was confused. But in this one, it explains it, and I'm like, okay, cool. We're fine. We can be besties again. But they come back, they reorient themselves, and Diana's best friend, Chris, from when she was back from book 1, I don't remember if we really saw Chris a whole lot in book 1. I don't really remember. But Diana's best friend Chris from kind of comes back into play, and he's like, where have you been? I understand you took time off, but I don't like this dude Matthew. Why are you all of a sudden married to him? Chris has an issue with literally everything. And Chris is also a professor, a science professor. And he's like, what's going on? Explain everything to me. And so Diana explains everything to him, and they pretty much have to, in order to, like, in book one, we saw Matthew taking blood because he's a DNA, like, specialist science person. I I understand, like, maybe a third of what was going on in that realm, so excuse me if I'm wrong for those who do understand. But in Book of Life, this third book, we kind of go back to the whole DNA, rDNA, metDNA, that kind of thing of, like, them trying to figure out what, like, what would it mean by Matthew and Diana having children, because one thing I did forget to mention at the end of in book 2, after the miscarriage, they did get pregnant again, but this time with twins. And so that's a whole new twist to everything. So they come back and they're like, okay, with these twins, how, like, are they gonna inherit Matthew's blood rage that he had gone from Yazbul? I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, but they're like, what? We gotta figure this out. And so they use Chris and all his students in their research lab at the school to kind of figure out what's, like, going on with, like, DNA and why, like, vampires and witches and demons are all, like, essentially dying out. But of course all these students can't, like, at first they were trying to get the students to study the DNA in the blood samples to, like, figure this all out without telling them that where the blood came from or the samples were coming from. But then they were like, yeah, no, we need to tell them. So they had all the students sign NDAs, all that legal stuff. So they couldn't say anything to anyone else because they had to keep the fact that there are creatures quiet. And so throughout this book, they are trying to study, like, how is it possible for Matthew and Diana to have children, all of this. And all during this time, they're trying to figure out how to get Ashmole 782 back into their hands so that they can then put the 3 torn pages that were torn out during book 2 back in. And they're trying to figure out how to get the book, and they had found out that the pages and the binding and the cover were all made by, again, another quick trigger warning, if you're squeamish, kind of fast forward a couple minutes, but they find out that all, like, the cover and pages and everything, it was made from the skin of the creatures. It was pretty much like the skin, like their skin was used as paper for this book, and along with their blood was used as, like, was mixed in with ink. And so that kind of, to a degree, kind of helped boost or create the magical sense of this book, of the Ashmole 782. And so, but yeah, and they're trying to figure out what is going on with the book, like with the pages that they do have, what's going on with that. They're all still trying to figure out how to deal with the congregation and Peter Knox. They're still trying to stay clear of them. But yeah, that's just like the overall synopsis of book 3. So, if I remember correctly, sorry, I forgot to tell y'all, I gave this book a 5-star. I feel like this book definitely brought a lot of things and, like, tied it up all really nice and neat. That's what I was trying to say. Nice and neat from books 1 and 2. And, like, it brought on a lot of other characters that just, to me, made the story, like, all that more, like, well-rounded. And again, I loved it. And I absolutely think that, and of course, during this book, Diana and Matthew's twins are born. And so they are trying to navigate being parents along with everything else. But I absolutely cannot say enough good things about this book. Even though I didn't really understand a whole lot of the scientific type conversation, which I think that was another thing, kind of like how I was saying for book 2, how Harkness was doing such a good job in being present in history and how good she was writing that. I think she did do a good job in how she wrote the lab scenes and just the whole scientific and sciencey side of things. And so I absolutely loved that about this book. And I loved how, even though I think just how Chris was still trying to keep Diana safe, even though he still, for a while, he didn't like Matthew. But that's beside the point. Chris, eventually, he does come around, and he does like Matthew at the end of the day. And so, and I love how, Harkness just wrote Chris as a character of, he went from the beginning of the book, what's going on, super confused, I don't like this type of person, to being, there is the concept of the Knights of Lazarus, which in book 2 there was some Knights of Lazarus stuff in it, but there was definitely a lot more about the Knights of Lazarus in this third book, because Matthew had given Marcus the guy that he had sired back forever ago. He gave Marcus the signet, or the responsibility for the Knights of Lazarus at the beginning of book 2. But just the way that Marcus went about trying to modernize the Knights of Lazarus was such a good touch of trying to bring it into present day, of how it was so old fashioned, and you had to be this type of person, you had to be a man, all that kind of thing, or you had to be a vampire in order to, in essence, be a part of the Knights of Lazarus. But Marcus brought it forward to where really anyone can join. Chris joins, and Chris is a human, and other people were being allowed in so that they can then have a better reach and a better system and how to protect people who couldn't protect themselves, which is the Knight of Lazarus's little motto, is that we protect those who can't protect themselves. And so just how they were able to bring that into modern day, and how Harkness was able to kind of create that idea that anyone, if they are willing to step up, can be unified under one, I guess you can say, banner. That is something that I loved seeing in this third book, is just how she was able to bring just everything, and pretty much everyone together to pretty much, I guess you can say, essentially to protect not only Diana and Matthew, but also their twins, which they had a daughter and a son. And just how everyone was so we all love these people, how about we just all come together and under the banner of singularity. We see this in the other books, don't get me wrong, just in the aspect of this book, I think she was able to, the way she wrote this book, finally, because in books 1 and 2, it was so like, oh my word, like crazy. She was finally able to like slowly, like throughout, like even book 2 into this 3rd book, slowly bring everything together to where they could be all on the same page, if that makes sense. And so I think that's why I gave this book a 5-star, was just because how she was able to just write that. And that to me is like, okay, like we can probably learn something from that as a society. And I think that's what Harkness was trying to get at in this series, was that like, yes, they were all like labeled different, and yes, like vampires, witches, demons, normal humans. Yes, they all were coming from different backgrounds. They are all like like they're all different, but that in this book, like they all came together for one purpose. And so, but I still think that this series so far has been absolutely amazing. And like I said earlier, once I'm finished with the last book that comes out in July, I do plan on at some point, for sure, probably won't be until next year, reread this series, because it's just that good. So if you have not read this series so far, I highly recommend it. And I know I definitely came out of reading this trilogy and even reading book 4, Time's Convert, and then eventually book 5. I have definitely learned a lot, like just as a human being from the series. But I absolutely, if you want to have if you want to get absorbed into a series that is so like fast paced and just, it's like dark, it's both dark, it's light, it's fast paced, it has like I was saying, vampires, witches, demons, anything, I highly suggest picking up this series. It started out as a trilogy, and then she added on to book 4, and then book 5 is about to come out, like I said, in July. But highly suggest picking it up. But before I just again start rambling and going on and on and on, I'm going to just kind of end it here. I will plan on, once I get and read book 5 in July, I do plan on doing if y'all liked this video where I reviewed both of these books, let me know down below by either liking it or commenting that you enjoyed it. And if you want to see the same style of video as this one for book 4 and then eventually book 5, if you want to see a video of me talking about both books 4 and 5, let me know down in the comment section below. And once I read book 5 and finish it in July, I will make that video, which obviously that video probably won't be out until August. So just to let y'all know, that's probably when I will plan on reviewing books 4 and 5, would be probably at the beginning of August, to give kind of myself a few weeks to finish book 5, because I think it comes out July 10th, if I remember correctly. And if you want to get it, it comes out on Kindle and then large print at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, yeah, and then I think really wherever new books come to. But I know those 2 places for sure will have them. And so, but if you want to wait to get like a hardback or a normal print like this, you'll probably have to wait another year or so before they come out with a normal print. Because when I first saw that book 5 came out, was coming out, they only had the Kindle version and the large print. And so I got the Kindle version for book 5. Anyways, all that to say is that is how you can get book 5 if you want to like mad rush read all 4 of these books before that book comes out. If it's a different day, I'll probably put it somewhere on the screen. But yeah, I highly suggest you get these books. I'll probably have a few other book reviews or just a couple other videos, because I do have a couple other video type ideas, and so I'll probably gonna kind of play with that coming up. And so yeah, if y'all, like I said, if y'all like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you had any other thoughts, if you have read these books and you have different thoughts than me, please again comment down below and let me know so that we can have like a discussion, because I love a good discussion. I love just talking about books. Don't, obviously. But with all that being said and done, if you don't want to miss a video coming out, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so you'll be notified for when I do upload my next video. And yeah, I hope that y'all have a wonderful day, evening, night, or wherever you are. And until next time, guys, bye.